And politics, and many people believe that, well, insecurity is thriving because politicians may have a hand in it and saying, well, they score cheap political points by fueling insecurity so that they can discredit their opponents. What are your thoughts on this? Let us in on those thoughts. Dr. Muchazi, good morning, and thank you again for being a part of it. Now, we have been, there's growing insecurity across the country. Even the federal government says maybe we should stop using the term growing insecurity. But then what we see is insecurity across board, across the country. If it's not in the northeast, it's in the northwest. If it's not in the northwest, it's in the southwest. It's not there, it's in the southeast. You know, there's just so much killings across the country, bloodshed across the country, and it's becoming, you know, really worrisome. And now going to 2023, people are saying, well, what we saw in 2015 could be child's play. Considered to what we would be considering what we would be seeing in 2023. Bomb blasts, have resumed. There was an explosion in Kano State yesterday. There's a controversy around that. The authorities saying it was a gas explosion, while those in the area are saying it's not a gas explosion, it's something more. Some even claim to have seen a suicide bomber. With all of this, what are we looking at? What is the situation as a Nigerian citizen, as a human rights activist? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, very quickly, I would like to first start with saying that this is a very appalling situation in the country. But we've had more appalling events, so we are even confused as citizens as to how to define some of these events. Like you rightly said, we can't even now say that there is growing insecurity. There is massive insecurity, and we are looking at a situation or a country that has incidentally failed. Now, but I want to even ask, because I'm not very sure, has your president, because I can't even identify myself now with that kind of president, and it's unfortunate I have to say this, but has your president even addressed the nation over these ugly incidents in Sokoto State? I'm not even sure whether that has happened. Has any security chief been able to reassure the citizens of this country so far that this has happened, but that they're on top of the situation? And has anybody come up to give us back-to-back results on investigations and possible prosecution of these culprits? We're not sure whether any of these have happened.
Well, the Nigerian president speaks through his spokespersons, and they've all condemned the incident in Sokoto.
Yeah, but what about the president? What about the chief security officer of this country? It's as bad as having a child being brutally murdered before all of us. We saw this on TV. People there saw it live. It's as bad as that. This is a child who's been lynched in this manner, and the president wouldn't speak. I don't know where we are. That's the point about this country. That's what we've gotten to. I really don't know where we are. I think it's completely disappointing. It's a disparage of the contract you have with that government, and Nigerians have lost faith and trust in this government, and anything can happen from now. My emphasis in this whole thing is we just hope that the citizens would essentially continue to be that sort of for want of a better word, content citizen in the face of ugliness, in the face of a mess. Because this is, if you like, from proper observation and analysis, this is the whole thing holding Nigeria together, and the only thing that makes Nigeria look like it's still functioning at this time. That we have a reluctant citizens, people who do not necessarily want to address their problem, trust and faith and confidence in the government, and even when that government apparently begins to fail the citizens just sit back and do nothing. So if we were in some kind of reactionary system, perhaps Nigeria would all be burning at this time. But we pray it doesn't get to that point. We pray the people do not lose confidence. We pray the people do not, let them lose confidence, but let the people don't lose hope. What is important in Nigeria now is that we must just remain hopeful to see how things are going to play out, and take advantage of opportunities for, electing constructive, sensible, and logical leaders into position, and then we come back to the Nigerian project and see how to reconstruct everything. Otherwise, in Hanacho, everything in Nigeria has failed. I mean, the government has the responsibility to protect lives and security of the lives of people, the property of these people, and this is not happening. It's not playing out in the country anymore. There is virtually no sense of security or sanity in any part of the country at this time. And we run a central security system which devolves, some of its elements interstate. And in all of these things, you can't necessarily say now that the lives of citizens are so secured or assured. We're not even talking of welfare again. For Christ's sake, the people just want to survive. Forget about the welfare architecture. What about the security architecture? It has completely failed. See what's happening in Anambra State as well. Only yesterday and 2 days ago, a lot of people were shut down at the same time. You go to all of the spread of the north and the east, there is crisis everywhere. Something really has to be done. And in sane societies, there should be a revolution at this point. I mean, there's no point.
Dr. Amujazi, we cannot be calling for a revolution. But then, you've emphasized that the country is failing.
I don't know why you're reluctant to call for a revolution.
Hold that thought. No, we cannot be. We cannot allow such calls, especially those kind of revolutions on radio.
It depends on what context and what perspective you see a revolution from. There could be a social revolution. Revolutions are not essentially violent at all times. There could be mental revolution. There could be all kinds of revolutions and even political revolution. I mean, there's elections coming up now. Politicians are all over the place canvassing for delegate votes and all of that. Fast forward after the primaries, we are also going to go into a general election that will involve every citizen. Now, there is some kind of revolution you must enact at this point. I mean, take revolution out of the context of violence. That's not essentially what we are talking about. How do we revolutionize a system for people to know where their power lies now that elections are coming? That's the point.
Now, you made your points and emphasized the failing of government and the failing of state. But then I'm looking at the Global Terrorism Index 2022, and here it states clearly that the Boko Haram activities with the organization has been drastically reduced and decreased. With the attacks in 2021 recorded being only 64, and deaths dropped from 92%, which is from 2,131 in 2015 to 178 in 2021. So, wouldn't you say that if you say government has failed, the numbers here are saying that, well, the activities of Boko Haram were drastically reduced, killings were reduced in the northeast, the number of people who died, not so much.
I won't have to cut you down at this point. It is not correct. I don't know where you're getting your values from. But the point is, I hope that those are not political values.
This is the GTI reports, the Global Terrorism Index.
Yeah. Well, whatever analysis and observation you're making, I am not subscribing to that. We do not applaud the government only because there's been a reduction in crime. There should be extermination of crime. That's the reason why the government is there in the first place. We also concede to the fact that you can also achieve 100% success, but you can't begin to celebrate what's happening in Nigeria now and then begin to say, well, by virtue of some index and value, there's been a heightened reduction in things. That's not right. I mean, we are looking at a child who's been brutalized and murdered before us. And what respect am I going to have to the value that you're saying to me now? That doesn't make any sense to me. We're looking at at least six persons who've just been killed in Anambra State a few days ago. We're looking at all sorts of incidents of arson, burning down of public affairs and assets and all of that. And we're here speaking about some value that doesn't add anything to the citizens. Has that value and that index you're prescribing now, has it essentially removed the sense of fear in the citizens of Nigeria? The answer is no, Ihanasho. So how are we going to begin to celebrate that? We don't want to know whether it was so much in 2021. We don't want to know whether it's been reduced in 2023. For Christ's sake, we don't have a sense of security in this country. For Christ's sake, everything that we hold together, the values we share, the views we share, are all completely collapsing before us. There's no event to be celebrated here. We want a government. We want to see a government that's going to be more proactive than what we see at this time. We want to see a government that at least comes to condemn all of these acts, and not only condemning it, but even showing us its tactics and ways, and then also, more like ventilating the results to its citizens. We're not seeing these things. We're not feeling it. It's not coming to us. We feel mostly, if you like, entrenched in the system that should speak for us. So I don't have any respect for the values and the reports and all the indices and index you're saying to us. That doesn't make any sense, whether it's coming from GTI or it's coming from heaven. It's not just making any sense to us, Ihanacho.
Well, I know that you're what do you call it now, an intellectual. You're a lecturer. You are also, one of those who has taught law. So, well, we deal with the facts. And now looking at the situation where almost everything in this country has an ethnic or religious coloration. We're seeing a situation where the government, through the military, rises up against, insurgents or terrorists in the southeast, and people say, oh, they're killing our people. A government says, we want to address the insecurity in the northeast, and the people say, oh, it's because you're not a northerner, that's why you're killing people from the northeast. How can the government really tackle insecurity without all of these colorations?
Yeah, we again have to redefine what keeps us together as Nigerians. The pact in Nigeria that holds different people, different nationalities together, essentially has to be redefined. This was what we thought we would achieve when there was a call for a true national conference. Incidentally, there was one under the President Jonathan administration, but then sadly we didn't see the light coming out from anything. And now there's consistent call for sitting down together and redefining what keeps us together as Nigerians. Now that's not going to go away. These distortive views and conception people have, it's not going to go away because essentially it's a marriage of many points coming together to call themselves Nigeria. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have several other models and countries and states, globally, that have the same attributes like Nigeria. But the point is that I don't think that that pact is still very much strengthened. Whatever it is that holds us together has to be consistently nourished if that marriage has to work. So yes, people are going to come up tomorrow and tell you, well, if there's an Hausa president sitting out there, if anything happens in the East, it's only because there's an Hausa president. And the efforts of that president is largely going to be undermined because people will just read meanings into his character because of this whole bias and sentiment that comes with tribes. So it's not going to go away until certain structures are put in place. And those structures, it's just essentially to redefine what keeps us together. There has to be a value check. There has to be some sort of cosmopolitan principle that hold these people together. And is it wrong to say that, we have a president from a certain bloc who's paying lip service to the interest and welfare of people from other blocs? I can't answer that question. I mean, it's all for us to put checks together and see whether that is correct. But the point is, there is no time when you're going to produce leaders or a president in this country that would have some kind of, if you like, comprehensive characteristic. Somebody has to come from somewhere. It's either you're coming from the east or from the west or from the north or from the south. And this is essentially going to be repeating itself because we have an Eastern president today. The North will be mostly dissatisfied when things are not going correct or rightly. So it's not going to go away. The fact is that we just have to find a way to establish some commonness, some sense of unity, some sense of togetherness. And the way we start is even electing logical, proper leaders into positions and seeing how they will be able to harmonize these divergent interests we have in Nigeria.
All right,
so
Dr. Amuchazi.
So enough of talking about a modern president and what his outlook and perspective is. Enough of talking about an Eastern or Southern president and all of that. Nigeria must be one, and we must define ourselves as one. But if we're unable to make that definition, then for Christ's sake, this is not going to be the first time it's happening in history. Let us break up.
Dr. Muchazi, we're not calling for any breakup on the show, but anyway, keep the conversation. The conversation continues with us here on your radio experience. You can count on
102.3 Abuja.
It's travel time. 3 lucky people stand a chance to win a trip to Kenya in the Techno Nigerian Idol Winner Trip promo. Buy the Techno Camon 18 or Phantom X smartphones and travel on an all-expense-paid trip with the winner of the Nigerian Idol Season 7. Also, get discounts of up to 10,000 naira on select Techno smartphones and gifts upon purchase. Promo runs till 5th of June. Visit at Techno Mobile NG on social media for more info. T's and C's apply. Techno, stop at nothing.
Let's spice up your day. Tune into a breath of fresh air. It's all fun and games until it gets extra and better. 102.3 Extra, weekdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with Olije. Cheers to something new.
Eagles Morning Rise. Eagles Morning Rise with
Prince. Thank you for leaving your dials locked on your radio experience. You can count on. And this morning we're talking about insecurity in the country and the politics of it. My guest is Dr. Chibike Amuchazi, who is a lawyer and a human rights activist. Is joining me this morning on the show. You can also share your thoughts with us. Call 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. We totally agree. Nigeria is one country, one united country. We're not advocating for breakup, but then we need to, talk about the issues that affect us as a people and put some truth to it, and put some really, honest face to this conversation as we continue to talk about our nation and move it forward to a better place. Send me messages on 090-797-05-4405. I'll take that again, 090-9705-4450. I'll bring in this caller and we get talking. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for joining us. What's your name?
Nice work, sir.
Very well. What's your name, please?
I want to greet your guests over there in the stadium.
Okay, we didn't get your name. What's your name?
My name is Favor.
Solomon.
Favor, yeah.
Okay, good.
I want to speak as far as I'm concerned, from my own opinion, those that are in charge of our security personnel, they are failures, honestly. They are failures woefully in Nigeria. Because in the Northwest, especially Kaduna, so kidnapping every day. People are dying just like a chicken there. So at least there's also be needful. So last time came out to say that they should bomb those people in the forest. So the people not really, they are human beings. If they are really need to do the next thing, they have done what they ought to do since. Because people that kidnapping people are killing people. Even right now, people cannot travel to, even me as also even travel to Kaduna today, because I lost my other brother. Because of this security issue of it, I cannot even travel. You cannot even travel to Kaduna anymore. It's too bad. So at least, even the Mr. President, the government are not saying anything, which is very bad. At least, they will let do something to do the needful to stop all this problem. Because they cannot tell me that they don't know what is happening. They knew. At least they let do the right thing. Even those that are behind it, they should stop. We are human beings. May God help Nigeria. May God help us.
Thank you very much, Solomon, for calling. I appreciate your thoughts. I'll be reading your messages. I see some of your messages coming in. Keep the calls coming. 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Send me a message on 090-9705-4450. Dr. Muchazi, you made a point about, a national conference that would address our unity as a nation. Some people have said the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable. Some others are saying, look, the unity of Nigeria should be negotiated, should be, we should be able to talk about our differences and how we can continue to coexist as one people. We cannot run shy away from the fact that Nigeria has different ethnics and, beliefs and religions, and different people exist in this country, and so we need to talk about our differences and how we can continue to live as one people. What do you suggest? Because I'm looking for solutions. Okay, what do you suggest we do to ensure that Nigerians continue to live together in peace and harmony? Because as it is, people are saying all the remote causes and even immediate causes of the civil war are staring us in the face, and we need to address them as quick as possible so that we do not have, such a situation befall us again.
Yeah. For me, I think the solutions are not far-fetched. A country that stops talking, it's already bedeviled. We must continue to talk. We must continue to interact with each other. And essentially, the matter of the national conference is just essentially, if you like, a solution in a place where you have gross disunity. Now, we have a National Assembly that is also practically divided, whereas that National Assembly is supposed to be a forum that brings us together, where collective or different views have to be, if you like, coalesced into a collective idea and principle. But that's not even working from that forum. So, as it were, we technically need another national conference, series of conferences where the different units would have to concentrate ideas and essentially front-load it as one principle that holds a country together. There's no other way you're going to do this in Hanasho. This is the only sure bet towards establishing that sense of unity amongst the people, because in that forum, the divergent occasions we see in governance, it's essentially going to be tackled and harmonized, and then we'll have a consolidated front with which we're going to effect governance in the system. It is in such forums that you're going to discuss the matters and principles of governance. It is in that forum that you're going to discuss the matters of resource control. It is also in such forums that you may even raise security issues and see how to police a country that has divisions and divides and lines in different aspects and areas. The geography of Nigeria must not overwhelm us. The only way it will not overwhelm us is if we can continue to speak with each other, bring out ideas that would essentially define us as one people. Like I say, this is not the only country where you have multiplicity of ethnic sections. I mean, Nigeria is just one amongst many other countries like this. How does it work for them? People have to look at the other models. People have to see how it works in other forums, and then bring back these ideas home, and then we begin to consolidate them. What I even want to begin to discuss at this time is a solution to the security challenges in Nigeria. For one thing, you can't even have that sort of conferences if we are already looking at ourselves as a people divided by many things. How are we even going to come together and agree? It's one thing to talk, it's another thing to agree. How are you even going to achieve this if we can move from one point of the country to the other, in view of the kind of security system we have at this time?
It's okay. It's really sad that someone like Solomon, who's lost a brother, cannot even go back home. He just mentioned that, and it touched me that he lives in Abuja here, but can't even go to Kaduna to attend, his brother's funeral, and that's the reality of many Nigerians. It's really sad. Bring in your thoughts and join the conversation. Call me on 09073530044 and 09087668888. I'm going to be reading your messages, some of you who sent in messages. Okay, let's get to WhatsApp now, and this one from WhatsApp says, okay, it's Favor from WhatsApp. WhatsApp says, "Good morning, sir. How's work over there and your guests in the studio? You were doing a great job. May God bless you in a million folds. All those in charge of our security personnel have failed Nigeria woefully. They should resign because they no longer protect our lives and property anymore. Leave Oh, lives are dying daily and day by day, like chickens, kidnapping every part of the country. You can't travel anymore because your life is not safe. By road, railway, or air is a problem. I lost my cousin's elder brother. I'm supposed to travel this morning to Kaduna, but I can't anymore simply because the roads are not safe and the government are not doing anything to take action. They are busy for their political ambition, for their selfish interests. May God help us in this country. God bless Nigeria. Favor, thank you very much for that one. And okay, I'm taking more calls now. 09073530044 and 09087668888. Now, Dr. Uchezi, some people have said the Constitution is our problem. Some others say, well, let's restructure this country, especially when it comes to, fiscal federalism. Let's have true federalism and resource control. Do you think that these can solve any of the problems, can solve these whole issues, that we're dealing with as a country?
Yeah, but the matter of the Constitution is still subject to discussions. And the only place you could do this is to establish a forum for that discussion to be held, and that's the national conference. There's no way we're going to run around a forum to discuss the challenges of Nigeria and how to get Nigerian project to work. Right? But, as an aside, I even want to ask a question, depending on looking at the architecture in the country at this time. Why do we have a slow response system as far as community policing is concerned? In that community where this young girl was killed, why was it difficult for the police to come to the rescue almost immediately? What's the problem with all these things? Why do we have a slow reactive system in the police network? Is it a digital problem? Is it a communication gap? Is it insufficiency of staff and personnel? There must be something wrong. Or is it a low morale that has infested the security organizations in Nigeria? What really is the problem? Why can't reports be made instantly? And why can't we have rapid responses from these security units all over the country? So for me, I think that one other thing we need to be talking about is essentially how to reconstruct and reconfigure the security architecture in this country. Some people have mentioned, and I also asked that question, whether a state police system would work. So people are also talking about community policing systems. But, for me, I think we also have to look at River State and see how the governor is getting it right at that place. We all know what was happening in Port Harcourt and the spread of River State as it were. But at this time, we also see that it's almost like all of these things have disappeared. What has happened in River State? What methods were used? Could we look at that place and see whether there's something we could pick from there? But for Christ's sake, we can't even wait for 2023. There's no point, and it's not logical for us to begin to say, well, let's get another system working and see whether things will change. We can't begin to wait for elections to elect new leaders and see whether things will change. Nothing is going to change, Bethany Hanashaw, especially when the structures still remain the same. What we must do now is to immediately begin to think how to reconstruct the security system. One life lost means a loss somewhere else, but 100 lives lost in Nigeria doesn't even mean anything. Everybody just continues to move around. What has happened in Sokoto State is really gruesome. It's abysmal, and to say the least, it's disappointing globally. But we're not even having the feeders that things are now going to change. Nobody's talking effectively about how to reconstruct the security system. It looks like the norm is going to be maintained, and yet we hope to have a different result. Now, this is saddening. So for me, I think that the IG of police and all the security parastatals and institutions in Nigeria must be charged up again to begin to tell the people what they're going to put in place to further assure the security of lives and property.
Right, so let's read more messages now. This was from Comrade Ulo Basi, who says, "May Almighty God bless your day, Ihanacho Prince. The Nigerian soldiers and other security agents have all along been active in shooting at defenseless citizens while terrorists, bandits are roaming free everywhere in the country. The case involving Lekki Tollgate massacre, amongst others, is still very fresh in our minds. Soldiers should focus on their constitutional duty of defending the territorial integrity of Nigeria and not be used in rehearsing and or harassing and intimidating ordinary people on the streets. That's tantamount cowardice. Also, it is no longer news that the country is hurriedly going down the way of a failed state. All the indices have been there for all to see. The three tiers of government are just making or marking time, but doing nothing to salvage the situation, only to fight for positions of authority to keep on pillaging our commonwealth. We must stop them now before we welcome wanderers among African, or before we become wanderers among African nations. All right, I'll bring in this caller before we move on and talk more. Okay, talking about solutions. One of the other countries, one country that the world is looking at and saying they're fighting terrorism and winning would be Mozambique, out of Africa. Mozambique. In Mozambique, there's something that they did. Rwanda and South Africa, Rwandan forces and the South African forces have been able to support Mozambique in fighting terrorism, but then they also brought in veterans. The veterans are the ones who have been able to prosecute some of the attacks against or the missions against some of the terrorists and succeeded. Can Nigeria begin to deploy such methods to see that we can win the battle against terrorism in this country?
Yeah, well, so what we're looking at here is a complicated situation. When you talk about security, it's quite an elevated subject. It's not for premature persons or non-professionals to discuss. There's no way I'm going to be discussing matters of security because I'm not a security expert in the first place. But there's common sense in everything. And the common sense that can be preferred here is that if you have an unproductive personnel, why keep them? What are they doing there for you? Right? Why keep them? I mean, you can continue to reshuffle these positions until we get things right. We don't know what model we're going to be referring to at this time. I think we essentially just have to look at countries or states that share the same commonalities and terrains with us, that face the same challenges like we do in Nigeria. And then, of course, we see what to pick out from there. But then there are security experts. The country knows what to do. The government knows what to do. The leadership of this country knows what to do. I quite agree with the person who just imputed his opinion now that you read out. The problem here that we have here is that we have time and time again, periodically, when we have the opportunity to choose and elect leaders that will direct the country, we have people who are essentially seeking power for decoration, and seeking power for personal gains. Nigerians must wake up to these realities. Nigerians must see that whenever elections come, it is yet again another opportunity for them to think differently and see how we can get things right by electing proper and right leaders. When you look at the spread of persons who are coming up now to champion the cause of leading this country, could you say to yourself that you're well satisfied with their pedigree as far as politics and governance is concerned? What are we going to do in this sort of mess? Because again, there is a complicated system of electioneering in Nigeria, which is quite woeful, right? It's become pricey. It's become more complicated than it used to be before, and so people with celebrated notions and views of governance can hardly get into power if we have to walk through the system that has been put in place for elections in our country. So it's unfortunate for us, but then we have to find a way. So it's up for us to begin to entertain questions as to what to do security-wise. I think that if we want to do that, we'll probably have to be talking to security experts. The point is, the country has a security engineering system, and if it stopped working, collapse them, reinstitute a new system, and get things to work. For Christ's sake, when we cast our hopes upon a leader that is popularly elected, we expect him to live up to expectations and not referring back to its citizens to provide a solution for it.
All right, join the conversation. Do you think that politics has a hand or, is playing a large role in the insecurity that we're dealing with? Call me now, 090-7353-0044 and 0908-766-8888. I can also take your messages on 090-9705-4450. I'm squeezing one last call and we would close it. Now, back to you, Dr. Michezi. We've been talking so much about, the politics and the people who will take over power in 2023. And almost everyone is saying we need a unifier. What kind of person should Nigerians vote come 2023? I'll have you respond to that in a bit. Hello, good morning.
Prince.
Good morning.
Hello, Prince.
Good morning, I can hear you. What's your name?
Hello, Prince. Yes, my name is Steve Kimby. Yes, I'm calling all the way from South State. Okay, Prince.
Kimby, good morning. Good to have you. Let's hear you.
Yes, okay, Prince. I want to say that it's unfortunate that we have a president from the north, and the northern part of this country is the beneficiary of insecurity. The insecurity in the north is more than any other part of this country for now. And the president is from the north and is being sprayed at his face right here. And it's unfortunate that he just left with some few months to bow out of the office without doing much. But I want to say that if I'm a president, Prince, and I appoint people in charge of security, and I'm pumping money, and I'm not seeing anything, in commensurate to what they're doing, I will contract to remove them until I get someone that will get the job done. You see, we're not happy that these people are not doing their job, they will still be there. People are being kidnapped every day. Those who have been given the responsibility, they are still there. Nobody is asking them to resign, affect them. It's not good. And I want to say that there are some things, happening here, in the north. They are being sponsored. I'm convinced, like the bandits, they are being sponsored. Prince, any time that those guys, they are, arrested, few of them, you will discover that they don't look like people that, have been eating, for the past 1 week.
All right.
They look so poor, they look so wretched, they look so tattered. You ask yourself, where are all these millions? That collected. It means that they are reporting to someone.
Okay.
They're reporting to someone. And I'm going to tell you that once Buhari will leave office, some of those insecurity will gradually go down, because they are being sponsored, I'm convinced.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Taking would have to let you go now. Our clock is on the ceiling. Dr. Amuchazi, in 1 minute, please, let some of these thoughts. The unifier we're talking about, how do we get that unifier, that person who will unify Nigeria and Nigerians?
Yeah, no, so first of all, you have to start with the citizens. Before we even talk about the candidate who's vying for the position of the president or any other significant position in the country, we have to first talk to ourselves as citizens. Now, you see, first of all, the citizens have to appreciate that in a country like ours, where there's a whole lot of emergence, we must look beyond those ethnic lines. How did Obama emerge as president in America, in a white-dominated country, and a person whose history could actually be traced back to Africa? How was he able to emerge? It is because he functions in a society where people look beyond ethnic lines. So if we begin to appreciate the fact that Nigeria as a project must work, if we share the same views and commonalities, if we begin to look at positions as one that is not designated for a particular tribe or ethnic society or even religious society, then perhaps we will be coming close to getting things right. But let's now even begin to talk about the candidate. First, if we talk about a unifier, we're going to be looking at a candidate that believes in the Nigerian project. Let's not have a candidate who is going there with some sense of division. Oh, well, the people of the East have been so marginalized, we think it's our turn, and now we have to project somebody who's going to go there, blah, blah, blah. When you do that, then the person, of course, does not even believe in Nigerianness.
Dr. Amuchazi, we'll have to close this now. Thank you so much for talking with us. Dr. Chibuike Amuchazi is a lawyer and human rights activist joining us in the conversation this morning. We really appreciate your thoughts, Dr. Amuchazi. We hope to have this conversation some other time. Thank you again.
Very much for having me, I'm sure.
All right. And Olije's in the studio. Yes. People getting set for 1023 Extra. Olije, she's been killing it with the dresses. I mean,
we have to come fly.
It's
a Wednesday. It's a fashion thing.
Tell us about it. Yeah, the fashion show go down.
Yeah, today. We're talking about the AMVC. I don't know if you watched the red carpet.
I saw the red carpet. That dress, 700 and 2,000. I mean, what?
He's going ahead to talk about it. I mean, yeah, we're talking about all the costs. But the thing about the award show is, if you're not nominated, don't come and...
You're just particular about stealing the shine.
Yeah, the spotlight should be on those who were nominated.
Well,
why are you...
Nigerians want to shine all the time.
I beg
We all want to
it's
shine.
not a Met Gala.
I mean, they wore the dresses like they were going to the Met Gala, and I'm like, what
Thank
the-
you. Those
Did it have a
costumes.
theme? I don't.
No, there's no
was there
theme.
There's
Just
no
like
theme.
the Oscars, where you don't have a theme, you have to go look good.
And
So, but
people
then
were wearing those all
whole
those
goats, baby
exorbitant
goats, and the chandelier and the generator powering, the chandelier, all of that stuff. It's crazy. But
Nigerians
besides
will
that,
always be
Power Hour
dramatic.
today.
Yeah, poor me.
Last week, your person actually won Mastercraft on the beach.
Master.
Yeah.
Yeah.